is verse number 9. 10th canto, chapter 22, verse number 9. Tasman vasam syupadaya
Tasam vasam syupadaya
Tasam vasam syupadaya
Tasam vasam syupadaya
Nipam aruya satvara
Nipam aruhya satvara
Nipam aruya satvara
Nipam aruhya satvara Hasadbhi prahasan balaya Hasadbhi prahasan balaya Parihasam uvachaha.
Chapter 22.
Verse number
9. Tasam vasam syupadaya
Tasam vasam syupadaya
Nipam aruya satvara Sadhi prahasan balaya Parihasam uvachaha Tasam vasam syupadaya Nipam aruya satvara Sadhi prahasan balaya Parihasam uvachaha Tasam vasam syupadaya Nipam aruya satvara Sadhi prahasan balaya Parihasam uvachaha
Tasam vasam syupadaya Nipam aruhya satvara Hasadbhi prahasan balaya Parihasam uvachaha
Vasamsi, garments. Padaya, taking. Nipam, Kadamba tree. Aruya, climbing. Sattvara, quickly. Asadi, over laughter. Rasan, self-laughing loud. Balai, boys. Parihasam, joking word. Vajaha, spoke. Translation: taking the girl's garments, he quickly climbed to the top of a kadamba tree. Then, as he laughed loudly, and his companions also laughed, he addressed the girls jokingly. Please repeat. Taking the girl's garments.
Taking the girl's garments.
He quickly climbed to the top of a kadamba
He quickly climbed to the top of a kadamba tree.
Then, as he laughed loudly,
Then he laughed loudly,
and his companions also laughed.
and his companions also laughed.
He addressed the girls jokingly.
He addressed the girls jokingly.
Okay, since there's no purport, we'll go to the next verse. Lord Krishna said, "My dear girls, you may each come here as you wish and take back your garments. I'm telling you the truth, and I'm not joking with you, since I see you're fatigued from executing austere vows. I have never before spoken a lie, and these boys know it. Therefore, those slender-waisted girls, please come forward, either one by one or all together, and pick out your clothes." Seeing how Krishna was joking with them, the Gopis became fully immersed in love for him. As they glanced at each other, they began to laugh and joke among themselves, even in their embarrassment. But still they did not want to come out of the water. Purport by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this verse as follows. The Gopis were from most respectable families, and they might have argued with Krishna, "Why don't we simply leave our clothes on the bank of the river and go away?" Krishna might have replied, "But there are so many of you that so many girls may take the clothes belonging to others." The Gopis would reply, "We are honest and never steal anything. We never touch another's property." And Krishna would say, "If that's true, then simply come and get your clothes. What is the difficulty?" When the Gopis saw Krishna's determination, they were filled with loving ecstasy. Although embarrassed, they were overjoyed to receive such attention from Krishna. He was joking with them as if they were his wives or girlfriends, and the Gopis' only desire was to achieve such a relationship with him. At the same time, they were embarrassed to be seen naked by him. But still they could not help laughing at his joking words, and even began to joke amongst themselves, one Gopi urging another, "Go ahead, you go first. Let's see if Krishna plays any tricks on you. Then we will go later." As Sri Govinda spoke to the Gopis in this way, his joking words completely captivated their minds. Submerged up to their necks in the cold water, they began to shiver. Thus they addressed him as follows. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the following example of joking between Krishna and his Gopis. Krishna: "O bird-like Gopis, if you do not come here, then with these garments caught in the branches, I will make a swing and a hammock. I need to lie down, since I have spent the entire night awake and am now becoming sleepy." Gopis: "Our dear cowherd boy, your cows, greedy for grass, have gone into a cave, so you must quickly go there to herd them back on the proper path." Krishna: "Come now, my dear cowherd girls. You must quickly go from here to Vraja and perform your household duties. Don't become a disturbance to your parents and other elders." Gopis: "Our dear Krishna, we will not go home for an entire month, for it is by the order of our parents and other elders that we are executing this vow fast, the Katyayana Vrata." Krishna: "My dearest dear ladies, I too, by the strength of seeing you, have now developed a surprising mood of detachment from family life. I wish to stay here for a month and execute the vow of dwelling in the clouds. And if you show mercy on me, I can come down from here and observe the vow of fasting in your home." The Gopis were completely captivated by Krishna's joking words, but out of shyness, they submerged themselves in water up to their necks. Shaking from the cold, they addressed Krishna as follows. The Gopis said, "Dear Krishna, don't be unfair. We know that you are the respectable son of Nanda and that you are honored by everyone in Braja. You are also very dear to us. Please give us back our clothes. We are shivering in the cold water. O Shamsundar, we are your maidservants and must do whatever you say, but give us back our clothing. You know what the religious principles are, and if you don't give us our clothes, we will have to tell the king. Please. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, if you girls are actually my maidservants, and if you will really do what I say, then come here with your innocent smiles and let each girl pick you out of the clothes. If you don't do what I say, I won't give them back. And even if the king becomes angry, what can he do? Srila Prabhupada comments, when the Gopis saw that Krishna was strong and determined, they had no alternative but to abide by his word. Then, shivering from the painful cold, all the young girls rose up out of the water, covering their pubic area with their hands. The Gopis had assured Krishna that they were his eternal servants and would do whatever he said. And thus they were now defeated in their own words. If they delayed any longer, they thought some other man might come along, and this would be unbearable. Gopis loved Krishna so much that even in that awkward situation, their attachment to him was increasing more and more, and they were very eager to stay in his house. Thus they did not even consider drowning themselves in the river because of the embarrassing situation. They concluded that they could do nothing but go forward to their beloved Krishna, putting aside their embarrassment. Thus the Gopis assured each other that there was no alternative and rose up out of the water to meet. When the Supreme Lord saw how the Gopis were struck with embarrassment, he was satisfied by their pure loving affection. Putting their clothes on his shoulder, the Lord smiled and spoke to them with affection. Srila Prabhupada comments, the Gopis' simple presentation was so pure, the Lord Krishna immediately became pleased with them. All the unmarried Gopis who prayed and kept the enemy that Krishna, their husband, were thus satisfied. A woman cannot be naked before any male except her husband. The unmarried Gopis desired Krishna as their husband, and he fulfilled their desire in this way. For aristocratic girls like the Gopis, standing naked before a young boy was worse than death, and yet they decided to give up everything for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. He wanted to see the power of their love, and he was completely satisfied by their unalloyed devotion. Lord Krishna said, you girls bathe naked while executing your vow, and that is certainly an offense against the demigods. To counteract your sin, you should offer obeisances while placing your joined palms above your heads. Then you should take back your lower garments. Krishna wanted to see the full surrender of the Gopis, and thus he ordered them to offer obeisances with their palms joined above their heads. In other words, the Gopis could no longer cover their bodies. We should not foolishly think that Lord Krishna is an ordinary lusty boy enjoying the naked beauty of the Gopis. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, and he was acting to fulfill the loving desires of the young Cowherd girls of Vrindavan. In this world, we would certainly become lusty in a situation like this, but to compare ourselves to God is a great offense, and because of this offense, we will not be able to understand Krishna's transcendental position. For we will wrongly take him to be materially conditioned like ourselves. To lose transcendental sight of Krishna is certainly a great disaster for one trying to realize the bliss of the absolute truth. Shri Radha Madhav Ki Jai. Thus the young girls of Vrindavan, considering what Lord Achyuta had told them, accepted that they had suffered a fall down from their vow of bathing naked in the river. But they still desired to successfully complete their vow. And since Lord Krishna is himself the ultimate result of all pious activities, they offer their obeisance to him to cleanse away all their sins. The transcendental position of Krishna consciousness is clearly described here. The Gopis decided that it was better to renounce their so-called family tradition and traditional morality and simply surrender unto the Supreme Lord Krishna. This does not mean that Krishna consciousness movement advocates immoral activities. In fact, the devotees of ISKCON practice the highest standard of restraint and morality. But at the same time, we recognize the transcendental position of Krishna. Lord Krishna is God, therefore has no material desire to enjoy young girls in sexual affairs, as will be seen in this chapter. But Krishna was not at all attracted to enjoying the Gopis. Rather, he was attracted to the love and wanted to satisfy. The greatest offense is to imitate the activities of Lord Krishna. In India, there's a group called the Gopies Sahajas who imitate these affairs of Krishna and try to enjoy naked young girls in the name of worshiping Krishna. The ISKCON movement sternly rejects this mockery of religion because the greatest offense is for a human being to ludicrously imitate the Supreme Personality of God. In the ISKCON movement, there are no cheap incarnations, and it is not possible for a devotee at this moment to promote himself to the position of Krishna. 500 years ago, Krishna appeared as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who practiced strict celibacy throughout his student life, and at the age of 24 took sannyasa, a lifelong vow of celibacy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rigidly avoided contact with women in order to carry out his vow of loving service to Krishna. When Krishna personally appeared 5,000 years ago, he exhibited these wonderful pastimes which attract our attention. We should not become envious or shocked when we hear that God can perform such pastimes. Our shock is due to our ignorance, because if we try to perform these activities, our bodies would be afflicted by lust. Lord Krishna, however, is the supreme absolute truth and is therefore never disturbed by any material desire whatsoever. Thus, this incident in which the Gopis gave up normal standards of morality and raising their hands to their head, bowed down in compliance with Krishna's order, is an example of pure devotional service and not a discrepancy in religious principles. In fact, the Gopis' surrender is the perfection of all religion, as Srila Prabhupada described in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. The Gopis were all simple souls, and whatever Krishna said, they took to be true. In order to be freed from the wrath of Varuna Deva, as well as to fulfill the desired end of their vows, and ultimately to please their worshipful Lord Krishna, they immediately abided by his order. Thus, they became the greatest lovers of Krishna and his most obedient servants. Nothing can compare to the Krishna consciousness of the Gopis. Actually, the Gopis did not care for Varuna or any other demigod. They only wanted to satisfy Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur. So, this is pure Krishna consciousness. But unless one is pure in mind, they'll get contaminated by reading this. They'll say, oh, now I understand Krishna. So I'm going to also get my own gopis and have my own transcendental pastime. So that type of thinking is very dangerous. And, but there are definitely people who think like that. And the question is, what is Krishna consciousness? Well, Krishna explains this clearly in Bhagavad Gita. He says, Matchita Sarvadurgani Matprasada Tarsyasi Atchetvam Ahamkaram Nasrusya Sivanakshis. It's in the 18th chapter, 58th verse of Bhagavad Gita. He says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. He's explaining this to Arjuna. 18th chapter, 58th verse. 18th chapter, 58th. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, a person in full Krishna consciousness is not unduly anxious about executing the duties of his existence. The foolish cannot understand his great freedom from anxiety. For one who acts in Krishna consciousness, Lord Krishna becomes the most intimate friend. He always looks after his friend's comfort, and he gives himself to his devotee, his friend, who is so devotedly engaged, working 24 hours a day to please the Lord. Therefore, no one should be carried away by the false ego of the bodily concept. One should not falsely think himself independent of the laws of material nature or free to act. He is already under strict material laws, but as soon as he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is liberated, free from the material complexities. One should note very carefully that one who is not active in Krishna consciousness is losing himself in the material world, in the ocean of birth and death. No conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. So, here we have a lot of precious information. First and foremost point is, Savai Pumsa Parodha, Yatu Bhakti Host, Haitaki Pratihata, Yayatma Spasi. That the principle of Haro Dharma, superior Dharma, Savai Pumsam Haro Dharma, Yatu Bhakti Host, is that one develops pure love for Krishna. And what is a symptom of the love? It's not motivated by any personal desire, and there's no interruption. There's no vacation. As it says, Mam Chayogi Vicharina Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sadhunam Samati Yaitam Rama Guyaya that if one engages in Krishna's service always, without any interruption, and unfailing in all circumstances, then what happens? Then at once, such a person transcends the influence of the three modes of material nature, Satya, Rajas, and Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Coming to the level of Brahman means one attains the true position of Krishna consciousness, and from that position one engages in devotional service, or pure devotional service. One that does not actually render service to Krishna until they come to that level. What we're doing now is simply practicing, trying. But when we are engaged fully, 24 hours a day, with no interruption and no material desire, that means when people say, well, you know, I want this and I want that, that means there's a material desire. But if they say, na dana, na jana, na sundaram, kavitam va jagadishya kamana, mama janmani janmanishvare, bhavatad bhakti ahaita kitvaye. I don't want any dana, I don't want any amount of wealth. Na jana, I don't want any followers. And I don't want to get married and have 100 sons like Dhritarashtra. Nadana, Najana, not Sundaram, and I don't want to enjoy or exploit sense gratification by enjoying other people. Sundaram means an object of attraction. So that could be a man for a woman or a woman for a man. We usually translate I don't want to enjoy any number of beautiful women, but actually the word means an object of pleasure. So it could be a man for a woman or a woman for a man, or whatever combination you want. And then Lord Chaitanya says, Mama Janmani Janmani Sura. And I don't even want liberation. I'm satisfied continuing devotional service without any material desires, life after life. Mama Janmani Janmani Sura. Bhavatad Bhakti Ahaita Kitvayi. Therefore, I want to engage in the service of Krishna in a causeless way, without any material motive, any other motive, material or any motive. So, this is explained by Rupa Goswami. Anya Vinasita Sunyam, Gyanakarma Dhanara, Anukudyena Krishna Silam, Bhakti Uttam. This is called Uttam Bhakti. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is teaching us. That's what Lord Chaitanya is teaching. Uttam Bhakti. No personal consideration of profit. Just like one time there was a person called Hoja Nasruddin. Hoja one day borrowed something from his neighbor and didn't give it back. So after some time, the neighbor became a little bit agitated. He would see the Hoja every day, and they would say, hello, hello, how are you doing? Very good, very good. And the Hoja would talk to him, but he would never mention giving back what he borrowed. So one day, the neighbor got, and then for some time, when you borrow something, you don't want to give it back, then you avoid the person. So then the Hoja avoided his neighbor for a long, long time. So the neighbor became very upset and very suspicious. So one day he personally came and knocked on the Hoja's door.